Yo, what's up, gamers? So, as most of you probably already know, Hypixel added something called the spooky events to skyblock. Basically, what it is for 1 hour, if you kill a mob, it has a chance to drop either green or purple candy. You can spend this candy on talisman, armor, special potions, and a few other cool things, but the one reward I had my eyes on was the legendary skeleton horse pet, which can only be obtained by getting #1 on the candy collected leaderboards. The main reason I wanted the skeleton horse so bad is because pets aren't even released in skyblock, so if you were to get this, you would have been like one of the first people to ever have a pet, and it would have just been the biggest flex. But sadly, I didn't end up getting the horse pet. I got second place twice in a row. It's pretty sad. Before I go any further, around 70% of people that watch my content aren't subscribed, so if you enjoy and you want to help me out by subbing, that would be epic. Alright, so usually spooky events only happen every 5 real-life days, but since it was Halloween, the admins decided to host an additional 3 events, with the normally scheduled spooky event only hours after. So basically, in a 24-hour period, there's going to be 4 spooky events, and I'm fairly sure that won't ever happen again. In order for the story to make sense, I'm gonna have to start from the very first spooky event, which I think we all know is a disaster. To sum it up, if you went to the bottom of the end and threw an ender pearl, it would spawn an enderman and you would take a bit of damage. Now there are 2 things wrong here. The enderman that you spawn in still has a chance to drop candy, and if you die from a pearl, instead of sending you back to the end spawn, you would just stay in the same spot. So essentially, the way to get on top of the candy leaderboards was to get a group of friends to throw ender pearls while you just kill the enderman that they spawn. Now, I didn't find out about this strategy until the last 20 minutes of the event, but that was still enough time for me to get a decent amount of candy to get some of the new items from the shop. The items that I bought were magic find potions, which if you get them to tier 4, it gives a plus 75% chance to get rare items from mobs. I'm not sure if this works for candy, so if someone knows, can you tell me in the comments? I also picked up the candy artifact, which gives a plus 15% chance to get candy, and the spooky armor, and if you have the full set of that, you get another plus 25% chance. I just realized I'm saying the word candy so much, I'm actually starting to hate it. Moving on to spooky event number 2, we knew that the enderman farming I showed earlier would be fixed, so Techno proposed a new strategy about killing skeletons in the highlands. The thing about these skeletons is that whenever you kill one, it'll drop a bone, and if you don't pick that bone up, in like a second or 2, it'll spawn a skeleton in its place. So eventually you'll just get hundreds of skeletons spawning every second, and with the aiming and piercing enchant on the bow, you just shred through them. This was by far my favorite event because it was extremely satisfying whenever you shot a skeleton, so I'm gonna let you experience that as well.
Isn't all your inventory like full yet? Yeah.
Good.
Alright, so you might have noticed that the skeletons stop spawning, and that's the one flaw with this strategy. The skeletons will only spawn during the night, so during the day I went to farm candy in the end. And again, towards the end of the event, we found out that spawning enderman was only partially fixed. Instead of going to the very bottom floor to spawn enderman, if you went up 1 to 2 floors and did it, it would work. I didn't get to abuse this for long, but I did end up finishing in 8th place, so I wasn't too upset. I would like to think that if the enderman bug was actually fixed, I would have placed in the top 3, but there's no way to be sure. Spooky event number 3 wasn't that exciting from my point of view. The enderman and skeleton strategies had both been fixed, so most of my time was spent trying to find the next best way to farm candy. I remembered an item called the bat firework, which is basically a firework, but instead of a little cool explodey thing in the sky, it just shoots out bats. But the thing about these bats is that each bat has a 100% chance to drop a purple candy, and on top of that, there's still another chance to get candy from killing it, so it's possible to get 2 candy from 1 bat. So at the end of the 3rd event, me and my island members poured together all of our green candy, and we were able to buy 61 bat fireworks, which would come out to around 4,500 points. But guess what? We checked the forums a little bit later and we found out that some loser made a report against bat fireworks and an admin had replied that they were fixing it. We had gone from a guaranteed first place victory back to having no strategy for the next event, which was only a couple hours away. I want to die. Before the next event started, I wanted to upgrade my armor to the bat person set. The way you do this is by spawning a boss called the Headless Horseman, which is basically just a 3 mil HP punching bag since he doesn't really fight back. Anyway, once he dies, he drops an item called a spooky shard, and if you get 24 of those and full spooky armor, you can craft the bat person set. With a few hours until the next event, Haskell brought up the idea of farming in the spider's den, which actually didn't seem that bad. The spiders there respawn fairly quickly, and it's usually not that crowded, so it was basically perfect. I found a spot towards the top that allowed me to shoot spiders on 3 different floors, so when the event started, I got to work. I remember stuff not starting out that smoothly, but over time I started climbing my way up to the top 10 and I eventually got to first place. Then came around a guy named Speeder, who basically cost me the whole event. He was standing in my spot and taking around half the spiders in the area, and because of that, the first place that I held for around 45 minutes, I lost in the last 2 minutes of the event because this loser would not leave the lobby. We offered him 10 million coins to leave and he refused. So Speeder, if you're watching this, fuck you. Alright, so now that I got that out, we can move on to the 5th and final event. So I use the same strategy since it worked really well last time, and let's be honest, there's probably not a better strategy, right? Nope. So this dude named Pwix filled up a lobby with a bunch of friends, and he had them lead Enderman to him so that he can kill them, which, I'm not gonna lie, it's a really good strategy. He beat me by over 2,000 candy, so it's definitely better than the spider's den. And as far as I know, filling up a lobby isn't against the rules. All the top people, including me, had at least a few people in their lobby to help out, but Pwix took it a step further and actually had them bring mobs to him, so I can't really be mad about that. But still, what if I told you there was actually a better strategy? One that could get you thousands of candy in a minute without even killing a single mob? Well, this dude named Calcod did it, and he got over 10,000 candy before an admin stopped him since he really wasn't getting it legit. But he was cool about it, he told the admins how to do it, and it got fixed. He got wiped from the leaderboards, and as far as I know, he didn't get punished for it, so that was cool. But anyway, the event ended, and again, I got 2nd place, which means no skeleton horse pet, but I did get these 2 pies, which will forever haunt me for how much of a failure I am.